Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran. Torghast is a pretty big thing for us to test in the alpha, so I just wanted to show you probably the strongest build I've ever seen so far on the Torghast. It looks like Shaman is going to be, at least for now until this is balanced, the strongest class in the tower. This can be done as enhanced, elemental, or restoration, but even if you somehow glitched out the game and weren't in any spec set, you can still do this tower fairly well from a little ability. If you get lucky in the tower, you can go for level 75 hard mode easy, and I just want to showcase you. Draining Hex is the ability that we'll be looking at. Hex drains percentage of your target's health every 2 seconds, healing you for the same amount. This damage will not break Hex. Essentially, you can kind of just throw someone into a Hex and drain them, as long as they're a humanoid or a beast. So that works for 80% of the mobs in the tower. Sometimes you'll encounter into an undead, and in some cases you can actually avoid undead enemies. Just because you're going through a tower level doesn't mean you have to kill every single enemy, and this is actually what we did on stream. The reason I'm making a video on this overpowered Shaman setup for Torghast is because there's actually no counter for it. All you need is time. All you need is patience. One of the cool things about the Tower of Torghast, unlike Mythic Plus dungeons for example, Mythic Plus dungeons have a timer. You have to complete the dungeon if you want to get the most amount of rewards, so players feel pressured to go as fast as possible. But in the Tower of Torghast, there is no timer. You can take all the time in the world inside the tower. If you want to wait until you have all your cooldowns for every trash pack, you can, and I think some people will play that playstyle. Not all classes are created equal. Shaman is one of those classes that's super squishy, but hexing majority of enemies and just waiting out until they melt is a really easy and simple strategy that's 100% gonna get nerfed. But I wanted to show you this playstyle before it got changed. I wanted to show you the overpowered nature of it. But essentially you can do this as restoration, elemental, or enhancement. The one thing I kept doing this whole time over and over is using Frost Shock, because that's where usually my hex sits. I got an ability that allowed my Frost Shock to have a chance to carve out 20% of someone's health in complete RNG. So essentially I would be fighting a powerful enemy, trying to Frost Shock him and hoping for the best. But if you have a lot of free time in the Tower of Torghast, you can essentially just hex through the whole mobs. And this is exactly what we did on stream. This gives you a whole new approach to Tower of Torghast. Some people have thought maybe it's just going to be one of those experiences where you're running and try to burst through as many enemies as possible, fighting through every enemy out there, just trying to survive and kill them before they kill you. But essentially the tower can be played in multiple ways. I can only imagine how rogues are going to end up playing this tower with stealth. Although a lot of the enemies in the tower are going to have spectral sight, so you will have to be very careful around sneaking against certain targets, but the potential is there. And the way that the tower has you play with various builds, I think gives a lot of creativity to how we play World of Warcraft. Normally we come in PvP, let's say we'll pop trinkets, cooldowns, try to blow someone up. In dungeons and raids we'll follow mechanics and try to do the top DPS in order to fight through a boss. But in the tower, everything is kind of like it's an upside down world, and it's honestly kind of refreshing. The second ability to show Shaman to be even stronger is Earthen Protector. Stack a couple of those, and then essentially you have Earth Elemental with you 24/7. I know, right? Shaman just went from a class that was one of the squishiest classes in the game to now you have a pet. You essentially are a hunter in a sense, with your Earth Elemental trying to do as much damage for you as possible, trying to tank enemies, making sure that you don't drop low. This is even more effective if you are an elemental shaman, because you can go for a primal elemental to make him even stronger so they survive better and have extra abilities to hold aggro. To show you further evolution of my earthen elemental, he eventually got an ability where as long as he's alive, there's a constant earthquake under him. So talk about constant CC and even easier time to maintain pressure. But since this is a plain earth elemental, he is essentially an idiot. He likes to kind of run at enemies by himself for whatever reason, and he'll just pull all the aggro. He can hold that aggro as long as he had health, so it's a very interesting interaction, but it still is an elemental. I mean, I don't really know how much brain you can really put into a massive rock boy, but essentially, yeah, I have a constant, permanent pet. As long as that guy doesn't get overpowered by too many enemies on tower on the hard difficulty, then essentially I have a constant pet with me at all times. And that's another thing worth mentioning for the Tower of Torghast. You have so many cool different Anima abilities to transform your character's abilities in various funky and interesting ways. In some ways, even call it innovative. And makes me wonder if maybe the Tower of Torghast is essentially a playground for us to test out all these Anima abilities that alter our basic stuff in order to maybe eventually make him into potential talents. I mean, wouldn't you like it to play Enhancement or Elemental and be out in the world and have a talent that makes your Earth Elemental a permanent pet that will tank things for you and maybe have an ability or two? I think something like that could be pretty unique and kind of cool. And I wonder if any of those Anima abilities will eventually, maybe in future expansions, might become something basic for us to use out in the open world, in PvP, or in raids. Another thing I really like about the Tower of Torghast are the mini bosses. Every few levels you'll encounter a boss, and you'll be able to test all your Anima abilities against the boss to see if you can fight through them. So I actually had a lot of fun messing around with my class abilities, all the different skills that I've amassed, and being able to play with my Earth Elemental as a perma-tanking pet, or pretty much a perma-tanking pet, in order to try to see if I can fight through some of the challenging enemies. Not every class is statted properly over on the alpha. Some classes feel very undertuned, and for the most part, Enhancement Shaman feels really good until you encounter a boss. Outside of cooldowns, Enhancement feels like it has very low uptime, even though the passives you have, the totems, all these other abilities would make you think this is more of a sustained-based spec rather than a burst-based spec. But either way, in the tower with all these Anima abilities, it really does help you to shift the scales of balance towards you, allowing you to feel powerful even though the classes are not fully balanced. So I can only imagine how classes are going to feel once they're fully balanced on the alpha. Overall, I'd have to say I'm really enjoying Shaman. It's right now definitely one of those top 5 classes that I want to level in Battle for Azeroth. And in Tower of Torghast, it seems to be like honestly the strongest class out of all the abilities that I've seen so far. Some classes get super lucky on a few abilities, but Shaman is able to do this with just a few basic abilities. One of the ones that really helped me out is the one that buffs my damage and healing while I have totems around. Essentially, that ability is kind of broken, and the math is a little bit off. It gives you, I think, way too much power, and you don't actually need totems to be around you in order to gain benefits. But there's a lot of totem-based abilities, like totems healing you for a ton, totems for letting you cast chain healing yourself instantly. Everything is working out for Shaman except for your epic abilities, which is supposed to be there every time you kill a boss. Those are still placeholders. But the fact that Shaman could do this well without the need of epic abilities is actually quite nice, because every other class so far has been very RNG based because of the way that the Torghast is structured for us to test, not to really play. So Shaman has been actually super enjoyable to see into the further levels and see how scaling works. Eventually, after hexing around a few floors, eventually my Shaman got enough raw strength in order to be able to tackle enemies in massive trash bags and just being able to obliterate them. That's always a fun feeling on the alpha in the Torghast, when you finally scaled over the point where the mobs in the area simply pose almost no threat to you. I can't wait to see what Shaman is going to be like once we have some heroic abilities to test. In the previous test that I've done, every heroic ability, or the heroic Anima ability you would get at the end of killing a boss, has been game-changing, allowing you to play your character in drastic ways. Last time I played Demonology Warlock, I was able to summon up to 5 Tyrants, so that was always enjoyable. And I wonder what Shaman is going to get in the future. But as of right now, it's only placeholders. But I still want to showcase you guys how overpowered Shaman is currently on the alpha in the Tower of Torghast, just for the sake of it before they nerf it to the ground. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about Shamans and the Tower of Torghast. For any of you that are wondering what the Tower of Torghast is about, essentially, it's going to be something you use in order to farm legendary pieces in order to craft your legendaries. And inside of it, you'll also be able to get souls that you can take back to your covenants in order to use them for covenant upgrades like soul binds. So, for any of you that are wondering what is the whole point of Torghast, well, hopefully at least that question was somewhat answered, but right now we have no access to test the legendary system or the soul binds, at least this early on the alpha. Hopefully sometime in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see all of you in another video.